Since America with Eden Cornell. Yeah.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. This is Eden Hill, and this is Common Sense America. It is Monday, December the 5th, and you know what? We're going to do some fun things this morning. It is a manic Monday already, and I decided let's have a little fun. So who wore it best, my godson Aiden or myself, with the ugly sweater Christmas party and the ugly sweaters we wore for the Lights of Love on Saturday? Send me your thoughts and your comments. Is it the Santa, put your drink in my pouch sweater, or is it the green sweater I had on for our ugly sweater little gathering on Saturday to celebrate Lights of Love here in Eastern North Carolina? And it is so good to be with you guys here this morning. I tell you what, we had an interesting weekend from the standpoint of the weather was very unpredictable as we prepare to do Lights of Love here in Eastern North Carolina. Here in Magens Bay, it was to benefit the local hospice center. And my dear friend Amanda, who lives in our neighborhood, she's a military spouse. She's a mom of 3 boys, and she is just a devoted citizen to this community, really gave her everything to make sure that Lights of Love was a success. And I want to applaud Amanda for all the amazing work that she did to get all the decorations up here in Magens Bay at the entrance to welcome the local community into a very festive evening. It did rain, so it was a little unpredictable of what was going to happen. But I tell you what, the Lights of Love canvassed all of Magens Bay with beautiful candle lights and bags in and around the whole area. And you know what? It was still magical. It was still beautiful, even with a little rain. But I tell you what, I'm so grateful to those who did support Lights of Love, those who did support our local high schools, students who wanted to come out and be a part and volunteer and be a part of the community. What a great testament to serving. What a great testament to giving back. All last week here at Common Sense America, we were focused on giving back. And this season is a season of giving back, whether it is Christmas or whether it's July 4th. You know, I think we all get so focused on ourselves. We get so focused on what we don't have. And in reality, we need to do a full circle and say, hey, what do I have? What am I grateful for? What am I here for? And really think about the purpose and what we've been. Hey, we got up today. We are breathing. We have air in our lungs. We have a mind to think, to act, to have common sense. We have food on our table. We have gas in our tanks. We have a warm house. We have people who love us. We have family. We have community. We have cousins. We have friends. We have children who are a part of our lives. We have a lot to be grateful for. And you know what? I am preaching to the choir. I'm preaching to myself. I woke up this morning and you know what? I said, I'm going to change some things up a little bit. I'm going to sit by the fireplace, drink my coffee, go over my Noom app, and then read scripture and not even bother with social media until I sit down and have breakfast. Because I realized the social media comparisons, and I'm speaking to myself just like I spoke to you guys on Friday. We have a smartphone, but it is dumb. And Avery, thank you for sending me your comment after the show on Friday. It's true. It's true. We need to be digging ourselves into scripture. We need to be digging ourselves into serving the community and giving back, whether it's here in Eastern North Carolina or whether it's to the ends of the earth. There are people who need love. There are people who need Jesus. There are people who need food. There are people who need some warm clothing. And so instead of being down on yourself during this holiday season, and I'm speaking to me, instead of isolating yourself and sitting on that comfy couch and watching a movie all the time, and I'm speaking to me again, get out and do something. Get out and change a life. Get out and talk to people. Get out and laugh. Get out and have coffee with friends. Get out and go to the supermarket and talk to a stranger. Yes, talk to a stranger. They may think you're nuts, but I don't care. Talk to a stranger. Yesterday, my husband and I went to Greenville we were out there doing a bunch of different things, and we went shopping at one of my favorite stores, and I was with a bunch of little old ladies who I just adore. They are the sweetest people ever. And we were shopping in one of our favorite stores, and we were talking about all things. We talked about birthdays, we talked about the holiday, we talked about clothing, we talked about things that were just laughing with one another and enjoying one another. That lady didn't know me from anybody, but I tell you what, we made her birthday very special. And you know what? She wasn't expecting it. She wasn't looking for it, but all of us in the store made her birthday special for yesterday. So what I'm saying is, it doesn't matter where you are. It means God is doing something and God is at work, and let him do it. Don't get in his way. And I know I am one of those proactive, get in your way, stir the pot, let's change things, let's make things happen. And sometimes that is really good. And a lot of the times it's great, but let God do what he is calling you to do. For such a time as this, let him do it and be a part of what he is calling you to do. We did have a scheduled guest this morning. Unfortunately, they are unable to join us at this time. We were going to talk about North Carolina commercial fishing. We were going to talk about the new Republican Congress, and we were going to talk about being independent consultants, small businesses, and freelancers. And unfortunately, that will have to be rescheduled until tomorrow. And so, yes, I primed you guys over the weekend, and we talked about it on the weekend. And then I shared it this morning again on social media. That will be rescheduled until tomorrow and the latter half of this show around 9:30. We do have some new faces coming to us this week. I'm grateful for all the new faces who are investing in my show here at Common Sense America, but it's not really my show, it's your show. For all of those who are supporting this show, who are coming out to support this show, who watch it after it's gone live, who watch the live feed, but then who also watch it on YouTube and on Rumble and all the social media channels. Thank you. I also want to thank Barbara from Harlem and BB Reed at the Blue Network. I want to thank Danny and George Beck at the Blue Network. I also want to thank Money Talk with Melanie, my girl Melanie at 98.7 The Coast. I want to thank you for all of your support. You guys have been such a support. I also want to thank my husband. I also want to thank my family from New York to North Carolina. This show is doing very well. And I also want to thank my friends in Florida and Sarasota, in Palm Beach area, and also those here in North Carolina who have been very supportive of this show. I'm grateful for you. You know, the show, many of you guys have heard this story. This show was born out of the fact that I do have a voice and I do have a brain, and I do believe in common sense for our American people. And, you know, I also saw over the weekend, a statement was made to me that North Carolina isn't necessarily blue or purple. It's probably more red. And, you know, I countered that by saying, are you sure about that? And the person said, and they're a dear friend of mine, and I'm just making a mere comment of what they said, but they said, of course, because we have a Republican House, we have a Republican Senate and the state legislature, and we have Republican judges. And I stopped and thought for a second, and I said, it doesn't matter if we have that Republican agenda if they don't push forth Republican work. If they have an R next to their name, that makes me, I am a Republican, but a conservative Republican. I'm not a Republican in name only. And that was what I fought on the campaign trail. That was one of the issues I fought on the campaign trail. So what I'm saying, and what I said to that person was, it doesn't matter whether they have an R or D next to the name. It matters on their voting record, and it matters what's going to happen. And yes, North Carolina, I believe, is more purple than ever. It looks like Pennsylvania, the state I grew up in. So what I'm saying is, as we head into 2023, and, you know, Biden, quote, is rescuing us and recovering us. Well, I don't need Biden or Governor Cooper or any of the Democrat governors or anybody for that matter to rescue me or recover me. What I want is money back in my pocket as a consultant, as a small business owner, as a person who brings you truth every morning, not like legacy media. I want money back in my pocket. And I'm tired of them stealing that money from me, from you, from the taxpayer. And you know what else I'm also tired of? I'm going to be on a roll this morning, and I have a long list of news items I'd like to bring to you this morning, since our guest unfortunately had to cancel last minute. I have a ton of stuff I'm going to bring to you. So if you want to listen to me, rant and go on today, I'm high on life. I'm high on Zabar's coffee, but I'm high on Jesus, most importantly, because this show is about God, country, and family. This show is about truth. And I'm tired of being lied to, and I'm tired of Biden thinking he has to rescue me and he has to recover me from this unstable economy thanks to Trump. Well, you know what? Trump is no longer in office. When are you going to stop blaming him? When are you going to start pulling up your pants like we all have to do and actually do your job? Because right now, all I see is a misguided president who doesn't know where the heck he is half the time, who's drinking insured just to get by. I'm sure they're shooting him up full of stuff to just keep him alive. But half the time, you can't even understand what the man's saying. Don't you agree? Yeah, I hope you agree. Because if you don't agree, we got a bigger problem. Where's your common sense? That president has no clue what is going on. So my question to each and every one of you out there who support conservative truth, family values, who support God, who support traditional marriage, who support the lives of the unborn, who support those who are fighting on the front lines, who support those who fought for you. My question to you is, what do you think? Are you afraid that you're going to be canceled out? I already know I am. I'm surprised that all the social platforms haven't taken me down yet. But maybe, just maybe something will change because of people like Elon Musk. I don't agree with his moral values in many ways. I don't agree with, having a ton of kids and having a ton of spouses. I don't agree with that at all. But I do agree with the fact that we don't need to be censored. Freedom of speech, people. But so many of us Christians in the public square, we are being censored. I'm going to read an article to you. And for those who are tuning in, thank you. And if you guys don't, I'm not trying to yell at you this morning. I get very passionate. I get very excited about what I'm talking about, but I'm not yelling. And so I don't want you to take it like that. I want you to take it as my love for you, my love for that flag, my love for this country is going down the drain because of people like Biden. And for all of those in my family and my friends who don't agree with me, that's fine. We can agree to disagree. It doesn't mean I don't love you any less, but it does mean I'm not sitting in this chair 24/7 and I'm not doing something about it. Our new Congress, you know what they're doing right now in the lame duck session? You know what they're doing? Let me tell you what they're doing. This is what our Democrats in our Congress are doing, and probably some Republicans too, just FYI. Because they have an R next to their name doesn't mean they're Republican. I have to tell you that up front in case you didn't know. But this is what the Democrats are doing in the lame duck session. Let me read to you what came out on the Daily Signal this morning. What Democrats are trying to pass before their House majority ends. This is written by Jarrett Stepman, December 2nd, 2022. So it came out late this weekend in the Daily Signal, and I'm citing thedailysignal.com. I've told you guys, go check out Daily Signal. It's a part of the Heritage Foundation. So I'm going to read you a couple of highlights, and then we can discuss. Democrats are in a mad scramble to push through unpopular legislation before the clock strikes midnight on the 117th Congress. The lame duck session is the period between November's congressional elections and the convening of the new 118th Congress on January 3rd. Mark your calendars, people. New Congress, January 3rd. With some Republican help, Democrats in the Senate passed that so-called Respect for Marriage Act, which would repeal the 1996 Defense of Marriage Act and order the federal government to recognize same-sex marriages. But that's not all. The legislation has significant implications for our religious freedoms, people. It awaits passage in the House, where Democrats still have a slim majority until the new session. Republicans will hold a similarly narrow majority in the House next year. Jamming through the controversial legislation through Congress during a lame duck session is a troubling practice to begin with. it's becoming increasingly common to bring up more hotly contested legislation that didn't have a chance of passing when vulnerable legislators had to face an election and the voters. Oh, by the way, hey, North Carolina, hey, did you guys know both Tillis and outgoing Burr voted for the passage of the so-called Respect for Marriage Act? Oh, by the way, did I tell you? Even if they have an R next to their name, doesn't mean anything. It means a bunch of cowplop at this point. This is what that means, in case you didn't know. So North Carolina, if you are a voting constituent in the state, in case you didn't know, if they have an R next to their name, they may not necessarily be an R. More likely a Republican in name only. Get ready, because the new state legislature is going to show you that. And look at Tom Tillis and, hey, newly elected Ted Budd, you better be watching, people. Get out of your desk chairs, go for a walk, and talk to people. You learn more when you go out and you talk to people, and you learn more when you're not listening to legacy media. I continue. Democrats are so concerned with, quote, democracy, that they are scrabbling to head off the results of last month's elections, it seems. Hasn't often the case, the left cares little about proper functioning of government when its priorities are at stake. The Washington Post editorial board called on Democrats in Congress to make the lame duck session a mighty one, quote. Imagine how the Post would describe the situation if it were Republicans seeking to push a conservative agenda through. Well, I would like to see, and I'm countering the Daily Signal right now, I'd like to see Republicans actually push conservative agendas through, because right now I see a lot of Republicans not doing that and looking like Democrats. Ted Budd, I hope you don't follow Tom Tillis. Tom Tillis is looking like a Democrat to me, people. You know who else looks like a Democrat? Todd Young, Joni Ernst. Some of the ones I really liked in Congress, in the Senate, they voted for this marriage act, people. When in reality, I didn't know that there was an issue. But now the issue is, what about traditional marriage? The marriage between a man and a woman. Are we going to be recognized, or are we going to be censored? Remember my interview with Family Research Council, Dr. Mark Harris? That is a huge concern. Additionally, on the agenda to get through this lame duck Congress until January 3rd, assault weapons ban. On Thanksgiving, President Joe Biden said he wanted Congress to pass an assault weapons ban during the lame duck session. The idea will still allow semi-automatic weapons to be purchased is sick, quote, Biden said at Thanksgiving Day press in Nantucket, Mass. Just sick. It has no socially redeeming value. Zero, none, not a single solitary rationale for it, except profit for gun manufacturers. Huh, interesting. Is that what you say to the men that are securing you with guns? Huh? Is that what you're saying? How about you stay up in Nantucket, Mass, okay? Stay up there, because frankly, I don't see you doing anything at the White House. And you know what? You being the elite of the elite, what about middle class? You wanting middle class to be lower than that? Is that what you're doing? Is that what you're trying to do, to make a one-party system where none of us, we're all your little peasants, right? Because that's how you treat us. I continue. Oh, next on the chopping block, Electoral Count Act. Democrats are looking to change that too. Oh, really? Okay. Oh, of course. Happens every time. The omnibus spending bill. The Biden administration is looking to drastically increase federal spending through a massive omnibus bill during the lame duck period. The administration asked for more than $47 billion to spend on aid to Ukraine, COVID, and other projects. Wait a second, I thought COVID was over, said Mr. President. I'm saying that. $47 billion more dollars. So wait a second, we're giving more aid to the Ukraine and more aid to other projects and COVID-19? Okay. So what about that money that should be back in our pockets? And instead you're taking more and more of it. And you're taking more and more control, i.e. the authoritarian state. Kind of looks familiar, doesn't it? Matthew Dickinson, federal budget expert at the Heritage Foundation explained the Daily Signal that the level of spending in the lame duck period is irresponsible at a time when the U.S. economy is experiencing the highest inflation rate in decades. The quote, supplemental spending request for Ukraine aid and COVID funding is more than an entire year's worth of regular appropriations for the Departments of Ag and Interior combined, he wrote. Dickerson wrote that the Ukraine spending, which already exceeds the spending on the U.S. Department of Homeland Security this year. Let me read that again. Dickerson wrote that the Ukraine spending, which already exceeds the spending of the United States Department of Homeland Security this year, our protection, deserves a thorough debate and examination by the new Congress. No kidding, Einstein. Passing such a major piece of spending legislation in a lame duck session preceding a shift in partisan control of House in January would be an unprecedented move, according to Eric Teitzel, Heritage's Vice President of Government Relations. Quote, since 1994, control of the House has changed hands in 4 midterm election cycles, 94, 2006, 2010, and 2018. Never before has the outgoing House majority passed an omnibus appropriations bill during the lame duck session following the election, he wrote. Okay, here's the next one on the chopping block. Amnesty for illegal immigrants. Congressional Democrats are seeking to codify the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrival Programs, or DACA, which would provide amnesty for illegal immigrants who came to the U.S. when they were children. DACA was originally acted in 2012 under Obama, but the executive fiat, the pen and phone presidency at work, it was struck down by a federal judge and could be blocked by the Supreme Court too. Democrats are now back to pursuing a more traditional path of passing a bill through Congress. You know, that quaint process once described in, quote, Schoolhouse Rock. Okay. All right. So any comments, thoughts, ideas, suggestions, recommendations? But bottom line is, this is what's going to be happening in the lame duck session between now and January 3rd on the new Congress, of the new 118th Congress. I challenge each and every one of you who are tuning in and who will watch this a little bit later. Watch what your senators, your newly elected members of Congress, watch what they are doing as they head into the new Congress of the 118th Congress on January 3rd. Because what we need to do more than anything as citizens who care about this nation, if you do care, which I believe you do, otherwise you wouldn't be watching the show, we need to be challenging them what they are doing. We need to watch the bills that they enact. We want to watch the bills that they're going to bring to the House floor and the Senate floor. We want to watch the amendments that they're working on. And we want to watch, more than anything, their voting record. So what I say to each and every one of you is get the list of all of those who are elected to your location. Whether you're in Pennsylvania, God bless you, having to put up with Fetterman. Whether you're here in North Carolina, seeing Republicans win but not vote Republican, watch them. Whether you're in the state of New York, New Jersey, Florida is freedom. By the way, if you haven't pre-ordered I'd like to say Senator. If you haven't pre-ordered Governor Ron DeSantis' book that's coming out February 2023, make sure you order it. It's a great template to what freedom really is. And you know what? If you haven't noticed, i.e., that's a great strategic communications person he has in front of him, because you know what? They're putting it out in and around President's Day of next year. Just a thought. That's just me. What time is it? It's about 25 after the hour on Monday, December the 5th. I have more to talk about with each and every one of you. We're going to talk about the hard winter ahead, the low test scores in schools. We're going to talk about also Brittany Aldean and what the fashion industry continues to do to our children. And then we will talk a little bit about tomorrow's guest. Gabriella Hoffman will join us tomorrow. She apologized for not being able to join this morning. And she's going to be talking about being that small business person and what the Biden administration is doing to consultants and freelancers and what's ahead. Also, North Carolina commercial fishing, one of the topics I ran on when I was running for State House, something the other candidates really didn't talk about and didn't care to talk about. But small businesses, the legacy of commercial fishing, I tell you what, Gabriella Hoffman is very in tune to what is going on in our fishing industry around here. So all of you in the state of North Carolina, wake up, grab that cup of coffee. She'll be joining us tomorrow at 9:30. I'm going to take a quick break and we will be right back. Thank you for joining this morning. So we are back here at Common Sense America. I am Eden Hill. It is just about 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Hey, you guys, I know I've been doing a lot of political ranting this morning, and I am proud of it. But hey, I would love your thoughts on the ugly sweater Christmases. You know what? We had such a blast this weekend. It was such an amazing time to be with family and friends. You know, I got those ugly sweaters at Walmart. They were about $25. I couldn't get over it. When did Walmart start becoming so, my goodness, so expensive? And, you know, I have no idea. I actually could have gotten them at Belk or Macy's for a little cheaper. But anyway, you know, I am getting some interesting comments from a cousin of mine in Pennsylvania. And, you know, I haven't talked to this cousin in years. And all of a sudden they just pop up and start sending comments to my Common Sense America. So I'm not sure if I should take it as support or just them not liking them being woke and wanting to take out my show. But anyway, to that cousin out there, you know what? I was so glad and honored to be a part of seeing you grow up and loving your family and loving you. And though we don't agree on politics, and though you have sent out some pretty harassing messages during my campaign, I still love you. And I hope only the best for you and your family. So anyway, I love you dearly, and we may not disagree. We may not agree, but I love you dearly. So I know you're listening because I know you just saw my note. Anyway, on that note, Anyway, I just love my godson Aiden. I'm so proud of him and the Swansboro High School Marching Band, and they are going to be doing some winter concerts as well for the indoor percussion. And that is him standing there with me with that ugliest sweater. So on that note, I wanted to talk to you guys more about some other things that really showed this week and this weekend and some of the commentary that's been coming out. And I am not going to air what Tucker Carlson did on the interview, but I am going to read some of the interview that he did with Jason Aldean, the country singer's wife, in regards to the human trafficking, the sex slavery of our children, and what is happening to them, and with the fashion industry, and even on TikTok and Kim Kardashian. You know, I love the fact that conservative voices who believe in the Lord, who believe in their convictions of protecting our children, are coming out and talking about this. So I'm going to read a little bit of that article to you in the last half hour of the show. And then we'll also talk about low test scores and the curriculum that is happening in our colleges and our universities, and what Dr. Ben Carson talked about and his growing up and what he went through, and him looking at this curricula that is really attempting to destroy the fabric of our country and our children and our next generation. You know, my husband and I don't have any kids, unfortunately, but fortunately, we have a ton of kids in our neighborhood. We have nieces and nephews and godkids, and we have so many amazing children that surround us daily. And we care about the next generation. We care about what is happening, what they are not learning to what they are learning, and how they're just being passed through just to get that check box. But are they really learning how to write? Are they really learning how to critically think? Are they really learning how to understand and apply what they are reading? And Moms for Liberty, Moms for America, Florida Family Public Council, Family Research Council, all of these organizations are standing up and helping parents and helping the children and protecting them. And I see it as protecting. I don't want the kids that I'm mentoring or my god kids to be exposed to what we are sex slavery because of this, because what's on this? No, I don't want that to happen to them. I want them to watch fishing. I know one of my godsons loves to fish, and he goes on YouTube 24/7 and watches fishing. His parents are very protective of what he watches. But I'll tell you one thing, there's no harm in watching fishing. I may have not grown up here in North Carolina and understood the fishing, but I tell you what, it is very important. Our commercial fishing, and also the rec, and those who come down from all the different states during the summer to want to fish. It's so important to have that hands-on experience with these kids, to teach them how to fish. It's very biblical. There's a lot to be said for that. Instead of teaching them about exposure. And I don't know if you guys saw, I didn't pull up the picture. It's just too disgusting to show you. But one of the Kardashian sisters, they all like to model. And one of them, for her new modeling line, was covered in blood. It was almost hard to look at. So this is where I'm going to go on this next segment. Brittany Aldean, Candace Cameron Bure, David Chappelle defy cancel culture and stand firm in their beliefs. The three celebrities have stood their ground amid recent controversies, despite what is happening in and around. So I want to share with you, despite hate from their critics and everything, here's what is from Fox News. I have to cite it just so you guys know where I'm reading from. FoxNews.com, entertainment, Brittany Aldean, Candace Cameron, David Chappelle defy cancel culture, stand firm in their beliefs. Brittany Aldean made headlines last week when she took a public stand against the fashion ad and campaign scandal. The 34-year-old mother of two and wife of country star Jason Aldean shared a photo of herself hauling out a clear clear plastic bag filled with Balenciaga clothing, handbags, and shows. She quotes that it's trash day. Aldine declared in caption on her Instagram post, tagging the luxury fashion house. Balenciaga's controversial holiday campaign featured children posing with teddy bear shaped handbags that were wearing leather harnesses. Can I repeat that? Did you guys visualize and grasp that? They featured children posing with teddy bear shaped handbags that were wearing leather harnesses. Sex, slavery, human trafficking, right there, literally through a fashion house. It's disgusting. It's vile. It's pathetic. The brand also drew backlash over a separate ad for its spring-summer 23 campaign, in which documents from a U.S. Supreme Court decision involving federal child pornography were allegedly used as a prop. Balenciaga pulled the holiday ad campaign and issued a, quote, apology for any offense it may have caused. The brand later apologized for, quote, displaying unsettling documents in the spring-summer 23 campaign ad and said it would be pursuing legal action against the individuals who placed the text in the image. The luxury label's creative director, Demna, also addressed the scandal on Friday and issued its own apology. Aldine's bold move stood out. I watched her interview with Tucker Carlson. They live in Nashville, and she said they were very much supported by those in they are conservative. She spoke out, we are conservative, and many of our friends in the Nashville community and around supported us. Aldine's bold move stood out primarily because of many Hollywood elites having remained silent on the scandal. Stars who have been involved with the brand, including Salma Hayek, who is married to the owner of the parent company Keurig, have yet to speak out. Kim Kardashian, who's a brand ambassador for Balenciaga, also issued a statement in which she was just reevaluating, quote, her relationship with the fashion house. Aldine has been outspoken in the past about her views concerning children. In September, the former, quote, American Idol contestant posted a video on Instagram with the caption, quote, I'd really like to thank my parents for not changing my gender when I went through my tomboy phase. I love this girly life, end quote. Aldine's Instagram post was met with much backlash because many believed her comments were transphobic, and she was slammed by country music singers like Maren Morris and Cassidy Pope. I don't even know those two names. Pope tweeted that celebrities could see the positives, including LGBTQ plus people and their messaging, while Morris wrote on Twitter, quote, it's so easy to not be a scumbag human, question mark. Sell your clip-ins and zip it, insurrection Barbie, end quote. Aldine doubled down on her stance in response. In a post shared to her Instagram story, she wrote, quote, advocating for the genital mutilation of children under the disguise of love and call it gender-affirming care is one of the worst evils. I agree with her. I will always support my children and do what I can to protect their innocence. Okay, I'm going to stop there for a second. How are we protecting our children and their innocence? Does it come back to the schools? Are we blaming schools? Does it come to the parents and lack of parental involvement? Does it come to the community and letting the community raise the child? Does it come to a lack of a father in the home, a lack of a mother in the home? I've heard it all. I've heard all the excuses and all the reasoning. But at the end of the day, are we seeking to protect these children from and their innocence, or are we just letting our nation's backyard raise them? I've seen both sides of it. I really have. From my work in New York City to living in DC and now here in North Carolina. It's interesting to watch statements that come from both sides of the aisle, Republican and Democrat. One thing that I'm finding consistent, though, is a lot of people and a lot of elected officials are stating that it's because of fatherless homes. Or lack of fathers in the home. LifeSite News cited that earlier in the weekend. If you have a chance, go and look at their site, LifeSite News. I'm going to transition from this conversation that is, again, yet focused on our children. And Daily Signal is talking about that this morning, from the select slavery and the protection of our children's innocence to their education and what is happening in the school systems. You know, I sit here and think, and I'm going to tell you a quick story about growing up in both Christian and public school systems. There are teachers that I can think about and look back on, along with my parents, who were invested in me personally and invested in my career and my growth. From my music program to my history and political teachers, to my sports, to my coaches, and to teachers who still cared. And then also to my parents who gave me that foundation. The education analysis from the Daily Signal this morning came out and said, from plummeting test scores to woke curriculums, Dr. Ben Carson addresses America's, quote, crisis in the classroom. And this was put out by Virginia Allen this morning. She is a very good reporter and analysis for the Daily Signal. There is a crisis in the classroom, and American children are paying the price, says Armstrong Williams, host of the Armstrong Williams Show, and Dr. Ben Carson, a renowned neurosurgeon and former secretary of Department of Housing and Urban Development. It's, quote, very concerning in our society today as you see the dumbing down of our people, Carson says. Carson and Williams are the authors of the book, quote, Crisis in the Classroom, and they joined the Daily Signal podcast, which I will post this link for each and every one of you. They offer solutions to America's foundering education system. Also, a third co-author, Benjamin Crump. Carson also addresses the role of the Federal Department of Education and whether it should be eliminated. Before I read the article, what are your thoughts? Do you think Department of Ed should be eliminated? Over the years, in my years in DC, and then running for State House, it looks to me that the states do much better without the Department of Education. Virginia Allen, she quoted in her opening of the podcast, America's education system is languishing. In October, the National Assessment of Educational Progress, which is also called America's Report Card, revealed a catastrophic decline in math and reading scores in America just since 2019. Just think about that for a second. She asked the question, Mr. Williams, like I said, this is a two-part interview. I want to start with you and ask a little bit about these national test scores. It was really disturbing when we saw these numbers come out. In mathematics, 8th grade students, their scores have dropped 8 points from 2019 to 2022. In 8th grade, their proficiency in reading has declined about 3 points. What is going on here? Is COVID entirely to blame for these issues? Are there other factors affecting this dramatic decline in education? Williams stated, well, I don't think you can leave COVID out of the equation, but that's not all of it. Look, Florida has it right. Florida did not allow its students to social distance. It defied and challenged the White House when they claimed that kids could learn virtually. Many of these kids did not even have internet. Many of them did have internet. And when there was an internet disconnect, the parents were not aware. And so the kids would miss class for that day. Oftentimes, the teachers were not prepared. It was just disorganized and kids were bored and isolated. And so obviously, we should not be surprised of the results given the issues that we were having before COVID-19. And remember, COVID-19 also it gave birth to Moms for Liberty, when they discovered that their kids were actually being taught what was going on in the classroom. I have friends who are teachers. I have friends who are educators. Some who have been put on leave because they are fighting this curriculum, the CRT curriculum. Another gave up on educating altogether. Others, though they do not want to stop the fight, and depending on what part of the country they live in, I will tell you that they are in the North. They are in states that are not supporting educators who are wanting to fight back on these curriculums. I continue. And listen, we all know that the National Education Association, these more special interest groups grow in power, the more at the expense of dumbing down education and children becoming more and more illiterate. That's just the facts. The more the power that these lobbyists have is at the expense of these children. And one of the things that we often forget is that family is also a significant culprit. We don't like to talk about this. When you think about single motherhood and adolescent pregnancy rates, especially in minority communities during the previous century, they have produced generations of children without a second parent who are born into poverty, lack nutrition, and actually adequate habitation. They are born burdened with a figurative change in the race of life. And politicians, what they often do so well is leave welfare undisturbed to attract the votes of their government dependents, while welfare recipients leave politicians undisturbed to maintain a hike that unearned government benefits. It is a form of such a pathological domestic abuse in which the wife returns to abuser out of necessity. As you guys are thinking through this article, it's a long article, it's a long podcast. I'm not going to read the whole thing to you. I will share this in the last 10 minutes of the show here at Common Sense America. I am reading to you from the Daily Signal, Dr. Ben Carson, his thoughts on our education system. And I'm going to read to you one of these final paragraphs. And then I will prep you guys for the rest of this great week we have ahead of us. Virginia Allen asked, Dr. Carson, I know that this is an issue. It's very, very personal to you. And you talk very openly about how education was so important in your household growing up. If you would just share a little bit about the role that education played for you as a young person and the role that your own mom, the emphasis that your own mom put on learning and the importance of a strong education. Dr. Carson said, well, as a youngster, I was not particularly strong academically. And that's putting it mildly. The other kids were always glad I was in the room because no one had to worry about getting the lowest mark on the test, as long as I was there. But I just really didn't think that I was smart. So as a result of that, I really didn't pay close attention to what was going on. And then, interestingly, in 5th grade, we had the eye exams. I didn't know that anybody could see the board. I got glasses, and all of a sudden, I could see the board. And I went from an F student to a D student, and I was so pleased. And the teacher was pleased, too, because she had low expectations for me. My mother was still horrified that I was getting these grades, and she worked at domestic cleaning over on other people's houses. And she noticed that they did a lot of reading and didn't watch a lot of TV. Okay, a lot of TV? No. A lot of iPhone at this standpoint? Yes. How much reading are your kids doing? So she concluded that that had a lot to do with their successes. She came home one day and imposed that on me and my brother. And we were not happy campers, believe me. Days where we could have called social services on, but we had to read the books. And I didn't like it very much at first, but I started reading out about people of great accomplishments, great entrepreneurs, innovators, and scientists. I started to understand that you don't just become one of those people. You have to work at it. And the person who has the most to do at what happens to you is you. And all of a sudden, I became a bookworm. I was reading everything I could get my hands on. And in the space of a year and a half, I went from the bottom of the class to the top of the class. Everybody was just amazed at this transformation that had occurred in me. But I was just thirsting for knowledge at that point. And it completely changed the trajectory of my life and allowed me to come from very humble circumstances to become a brain surgeon. That it had to do with the education and recognizing the importance of it. He said one of the reasons that he wanted to write this book is to help people to realize that our educational system is an incredibly important part of success in our society. It doesn't matter where you came from. If you get a good education, you write your own take. It doesn't matter if you come from a liberal family or a conservative family, a black family or a white family or a yellow family. It does not matter. You go ahead and you program that computer of yours, which is your brain. And like a regular computer, you get out of it what you put into it. You have to program it to do the things you want it to do. If you don't do that, you're like, what's going on? And it was so important that John Adams, our second president, said that our system is based upon an educated and informed populace. If you don't have that, you have people who are very easily to manipulate. It is 9:51 a.m. Eastern Time. Here at Common Sense America, I am Eden Hill. I'm going to share this podcast with you. It is full of wealth of information. If you guys are concerned as parents, as single moms, as single dads, even if you were a student listening to this show, I encourage you to go over and listen to Dr. Ben Carson's podcast with the Daily Signal, Virginia Allen. As we head into 2023, we have a lot in front of us. The news headlines are what Democrats are going to be doing in this lame duck Congress, the hard winter ahead because of energy bills, IRS warning us about the new $600 threshold for PayPal, Venmo, and payments. So for all of you independent consultants out there, be aware things are going to be changing. And I'm speaking to me too. For all of us who are freelancers, independent consultants, have small businesses, the dollars and the cents of all of it, we have a lot ahead of us and we need to be prepared for it. So I want you guys to get ready. I'm going to share some of these articles with you. Tomorrow at 9:30 a.m., Gabriella Hoffman will rejoin the show and she will be sharing with us her work that is focused on what is happening in the Biden administration, the 1099K rule already punishing casual sellers. That is the title of her Townhall column. We are going to be talking about that tomorrow. Again, I want to thank everyone who joined in this morning for Common Sense America. I do apologize for the last minute change. I know we've been talking about this all weekend and also commercial fishing. But at the end of the day, I'm glad I got to speak with you about some of the most important things that are affecting our nation's backyard, that are affecting our children, that are affecting what money we are still being able to put into our pockets. And that is not very much. And you and I both know that. We need to be aware of what is happening, the truth, the commentary. The legacy media continues to want to say certain things that we both know that are not truth. For all of you out there, I want to encourage you to go to these sites for truth and understanding when it comes to what is happening in our nation. It's so easy to put our heads in the sand. It's so easy to turn our heads. But that's not going to do any good either. Go to dailysignal.com. Go to the Blue Network magazine. Go to 990 AM. Listen to The Morning Drive with Chris Stegall. He is a good friend of mine. We have been friends for years. He has been more than a decade in Philadelphia. He is on the Salem radio. Go to Sebastian Gorka. He's also carried in the Philadelphia network and on Salem radio. He's on the afternoon drive. Go to Fox Business. Listen to Maria Bartiromo. There is still truth being reported out there, and those are the sites I would highly recommend you go to. Townhall.com, Color Us United, Moms for Liberty, Money Talk with Melanie, 98.7 The Coast. She breaks the numbers down like nobody's business. And we're going to have her back to the show as we talk about the dollars and cents and how we can save money in this Biden economic crisis. And yes, it is an economic destroyer more than anything. More upcoming this week. We have a lot of new faces coming to the show. Again, season of giving back. We will be talking about a lot of different organizations where we can get involved, but we're also going to be talking about the humanitarian efforts in Ukraine. We're also going to be talking about that Army-Navy football game at the end of this week. And we're going to be bringing some special guests over to the show. I'm going to save those as we go through the week. I'm just sending out a little teaser, but all new faces that you guys do not want to miss. We have an amazing list of guests coming to us this week. I am so grateful for each and every one of you. Thank you for being a part of here of Common Sense America. I'm going to take a quick break and we'll be right back with our final show note. Okay, you guys, it's Monday, December 5th. It is a full week ahead of opportunity, of greatness. Get out there, capture your journey, know who is guiding you, have a faith, get a mental health walk-in. Make sure you get some of those stocking stuffers I've been recommending. I'm going to show them to you right now. Go and get His Child by S.A. Moore and Marcy Friesner. It is an amazing 40-day devotional, and it fits perfectly in your stocking stuffers for your family and your friends. Also, if you have not had a chance to go get Ever Vigilant, it is by Dr. J. Philip London, Legacy and Leadership of the CACI Chairman. DC Beltway favorite, recognized by the tech industry, by the business, by our military and national security, by our veterans. His wife, Dr. Jennifer London, is a phenomenal human. She is leading the front in honor of her late husband. This is his book, and she is just a phenomenal person. This book, all of the proceeds go to a military and/or veteran organization. So if you have not had a chance, go pick it up. It's called Ever Vigilant. It has tools and tips for legacy, for leadership, and it's all here in this book. At the end of every chapter, learn a little about leadership, a little about business. If you are an entrepreneur wanting to grow in your skills, this is your book. If you are a veteran and want to hear about a naval aviator, class of 59, this is your book. If you are in business, if you are military, this is your book. Dr. J. Philip London wrote this from his personal perspective of his amazing journey growing up in Oklahoma to being a Fortune 500 businessman. On that note, have a great Monday. Get out there. Get that mental health walk in. Send a smile to somebody that you've never met before, and maybe buy that person a cup of coffee that you're in line with. At the end of the day, well done, thou good and faithful servant, is what I want to hear from the Lord God Almighty. Be bold, be courageous, and don't give up. I'll see you guys tomorrow.